And welcome to another edition of the Pekin First podcast. My name is Josh, and I get the absolute pleasure of serving as the online ministries here at Pekin First.
Well, hello there, Josh, and hello, everyone. My name is Sean. I am the pastor here at Pekin First, and it is my privilege to be able to serve in that capacity.
All right, and welcome to episode 25. It's called What is Your Impact?
25.
25
I
of
can't
them.
believe we have done this 25 times already. It's amazing.
Yeah, actually, we've done it 26 because we did record one that didn't record.
Right. We don't talk about that one anymore, though.
We tell everybody we got to do a sound check because we have done this before.
Yeah.
All right, and this one is episode 25. It's called What is Your Impact? And we're going to go through just some ways that people in my life and around us that are in our community have impacted our lives, and they have a bigger impact than they know.
Yeah.
So we start every episode with this week's personal best, and Sean, I'll let you go first this week.
Sure. My personal best this week was my chance to go to Nashville last weekend with my wife, Sandra, who celebrated her birthday, and we got to spend the weekend with our kids and their significant others, and just had a wonderful time together with family, some downtime, relaxation, and spending some good time in Nashville.
Nice. And you have a spicy, is it a spicy chicken sandwich that you like? Is that right?
Well, it's called the Nashville hot chicken sandwich.
Okay.
And I mean, you can get them pretty much anywhere, I think, but it's kind of cool to get one right in Nashville because they're famous for those. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And they are hot too, man.
Turn your hair a little redder, will it?
Yeah, I think it did. Yeah.
All right. And my personal best this week was worship this week. Our worship team is the best at picking out just certain songs that go with certain the scripture that week or the theme that week. And they picked a couple songs this week that, man, I just it was and I honestly can't think of the name of it, but it basically that you are worth it, right? You are worthy, and it has an impact on me, and they do that from week. The previous week, I was telling the youth when I was on with them last week, there was a moment in service the week before that you could just feel the energy in the sanctuary. Yeah. And our worship team has, our contemporary worship team for that service has just that gift. Eric has that gift for sure of just picking the correct songs and knowing what the feel in the room is going to be. So, so that was my personal best. And honestly, it was that whole day because I got to then record with the youth, and that was a whole lot of fun. Just when you have youth on a microphone, they get a little nervous and a little giddy, and it's a whole lot of fun.
Never know what you're going to get.
You never know what you're going to get. And just so everybody knows, a lot of these are not edited. 99% of them are not edited at all. So this is a raw podcast, if you will.
Yeah. If you missed that one, you got to go back and check it out for sure.
Absolutely.
Episode 24.
24.
Yeah.
Right. All right. This is, like I said, episode 25. And we're going to focus on what impacts are and what kind of impact that you can make. You just never know who you're impacting around you. This one is based on Jeremiah 29:11, which states, "For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and hope." And I have the personal belief that when you do things that feel right in your heart, that the impact of those around you is forever. Yeah. So I had a pretty significant loss this week. I had a cousin that I grew up with, and he was the cousin that, right, you get in a lot of trouble with. He was one of my good friends and a cousin. He was a little older than I was. He was 3 years older than me, but those are the cousins that get you in trouble, right? And he taught me how to fish, and we would hope my dad's not listening. We would go smoke on the lake, right, on Spring Lake, and we'd go up on the hill and we'd build forts together. A few years ago, he moved. He lived in a little town of Delavan here in Illinois, and he moved to a little community called Flagler Beach down, and honestly pursued one of his biggest dreams and opened a coffee shop of his own. And this week he passed away, 49 years old, passed away all of a sudden, had some heart problems, some blood pressure problems, stuff like that through his whole life, and it finally caught up with him. And what I didn't know, and as you grow older, get older, I say grow older, not that old, but as you get older, you tend to veer away from some of those childhood friends or childhood family. And yes, we weren't as close as what we were once, but we always made a connection. I had been down there. I was down there twice last year, and just, you kind of pick up really where you never left off. Yeah. And so as this is going down for his family, for his kids, he's got 2 kids and a wife, a high school sweetheart. And as this is going on, the family up here, extended family, if you will, is kind of keeping tabs on what's going on down at Flagler Beach. And just the outpouring of support, the fundraisers that were had, like Daytona Beach had a story on the nightly news about it. It was in the paper. It was all over the impact that he had made in that community in 4 short years, and probably had no idea that he was doing it, right, but had an impact in 4 short years that hundreds of people reached out to the family for what do you need type of thing. And so that's what kind of brought this on for me. I did not have any idea of what impact that he was making there. And like I said, I'd been there twice last year, so I got to experience a little bit what was going on down there. But I had no idea. I had no idea. Mm-hmm. So, and you just got to think about all the people that are around us. We have ministries here at the church that do that, and you just don't realize the impact that they make. So,
yeah, I'm gonna jump in. I didn't know if you were finished up there yet. But great story, and I'm really sorry, Josh, about Travis. And you're right, though. I mean, I think that what we can do in the aftermath of sometimes what feels just like overwhelming grief is to say, what's the legacy? What did they leave behind? And I, as you were telling the story, I was just thinking about a church plant that we had down in Florida several years ago, and COVID kind of brought it to a screeching halt. And unfortunately, the church didn't survive after that. And anybody who's ever been through a startup of any kind, it could be a business or a tech company, anything. You pour your blood, sweat, and tears into those things, and they become like a child to you in many ways. And for us, that certainly was. Was the situation, and when it ended, it was so painful. But even today, now 7 years later, we're still seeing the impact of that ministry and that church on the community there, and on lives of people who we probably didn't even realize we were touching while we were there through that ministry. Actually, much of what that church was continues on in various organic kinds of ways that aren't institutional or rooted in anything. It just is the seeds that were planted at the time are blossoming in some wonderful ways. And that's what happens in our lives. We don't realize the seeds that we're planting and the way that we are impacting the people and the cities and the places all around us. And I think it's a good reminder for us to remember that we are doing that.
Yeah. And I mean, it was a reminder of me for so many things that, what's the old saying? Today is called the present because it's a gift.
Yeah.
And so it makes you think about all that stuff, but also balancing your life, number one, for God and your family, but also to do as I always say, do the great things, and just have an everlasting impact. And like you said, the legacy, he has a legacy. His kids are watching the impact that you may not have seen while he was here, but you're seeing the impact of, he was such a great guy. He was always involved. He was, and they were there 4 years. And I'm like, wow. Yeah. What if that would have been 20?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What kind of impact then?
Right.
And another one that kind of got me this week was, a good friend of mine and my wife's, and we do a lot of volunteer work. I say a lot of volunteer. We do a lot of work here with them in town. Is Amy and Mike McCoy. And Mike McCoy, after 48 years, 48 years, has retired from the police force. He was a Peoria County sheriff for so many years, and then he finished his career in Washington as chief. And they have this aura around them that the impact of the things that they do especially for St. Jude, but for the little things like they cook for the Ronald McDonald House, they do so much for the community, and the impact that man has had over his 48 years in law enforcement. You don't run into anybody that, number one, when he ran for sheriff, that's a partisan position, right? You got to declare what you are. But you run into people that he's never met a bad, nobody has anything bad to say about him. And Amy as well, for that matter. And the things that they have done for St. Jude and the impact at millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars raised for St. Jude. And just the things that they do for St. Jude, and for him to be able to now, he's still going to be involved with St. Jude, to my understanding, but just in his police work, the good things that he's done in his police work, solving mysteries. Phil Luciano had him on a talk show that I hear every once in a while, had him on the other day, and just going through some of the memories that he had, some of the harder cases that he had, was very interesting. He said, I've got stories as long as my arm.
Yeah. Wow.
So, and then we also do things here at the church. We have the Open Table Cafe. That is a newer one of our ministries, something we've done in the past. It's got a new name now. Something we've done in the past that makes an impact community-wide, which then goes out, statewide, then which goes out nationwide. It's just an impact because those people that struggle, they may have to replant somewhere else to get that start, and they will never forget the one time that little church in Pekin, I say little, we're not that little, but that church in Pekin fed them.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's reminds me again of the church plant in Florida, which was a very similar model to that, and the lives that were touched. And I mean, I have stories and stories and stories of men and women who, were struggling with drug addiction or living on the streets or, just having a terrible time in life. And because they found their way to our church, or they find their way to the Open Table Cafe here at Pekin First, and they receive a meal and they receive some hospitality and some compassion for some people here at the church, it changes their lives. And it is that small of what may even seem insignificant act of kindness on our part to do this. It's not a lot of work. It's a chance for us to come together and serve together and make a meal together and bless some people together. It doesn't feel like it's all that huge of a deal, but lives are being touched, and it is great impact.
Absolutely. There, a lady that I work with, she is deep into her faith. She has what she calls a direct line into her faith, and that is one of our tenants. I manage I manage a couple hundred properties, and she is connected with this tenant who has just impacted her life greatly, and now it's starting to impact her children. Right. Mm-hmm. So she says, I'm concentrating on the garbage in with my kids. Right. What are they taking in? What can I show them that is good, and making that impact? So that one tenant has now impacted the lady that I work with, who is impacting her kids, which then that will, it just goes down. You just don't know who you're impacting when you do things like that. And it doesn't have to be like that wasn't a terribly huge thing. It was one person reaching out to another person, and now it will impact generations.
Right. And even in the times in our lives where it feels like it's the worst time in our lives, there's no chance that we can make an impact, we're able to. I think about that scripture that you shared there, Jeremiah 29, and that comes right out of a moment in the life of the Hebrews where they were in captivity. They were in exile in Babylon, they felt like everything was over and done with. You know, the Psalms talk about them sitting by the rivers and crying and wondering if they were ever going to be able to sing the songs of Zion again. And it was just a terrible time. And the Lord spoke to them through the prophet Jeremiah saying, hang in there. Just know that I know the plans that I have for you, and they're plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you a future and a hope. The promise of God, even in the midst of our difficulties, is you have made an impact in the past. You are making an impact even now in this community. You know, if you dive even deeper into Jeremiah, what God says to the exiles is, bless the people that you're with. You know, I know you don't want to be here. I know you want to be back home in Jerusalem, and I know that this doesn't feel like I am in this at all, but I want you to know you're even making an impact here in exile in Babylon. He says, you know, plant your gardens and build your houses and work for the welfare of the place where I have sent you. It's such a powerful passage. And then he goes on to say, because I know the plans that I have for you. So, you know, maybe somebody's listening and like, I just don't have anything to offer, and life really sucks right now, and I don't know, you know, how I'm supposed to make an impact. Let me just tell you, sometimes it's in our deepest, darkest places where God can use us to make the greatest impact. So just, you know, hang in there and know that God does have a plan for you, because that word isn't just for the Israelites in captivity in Babylon 3,000 years ago. It's for us today as well.
And it's amazing how the Bible translates into things today. Yeah. It's like it's the never expiring word,
right?
For sure.
Yeah.
And
the living word.
And that's the living word. And when you are in your deepest, darkest place, maybe the impact you're making is somebody watching you come out of that, knowing that when they are in that deepest, darkest place themselves, they know that they can get out of it because they watched you walk out of it.
That's right.
So I have one more person who has made an impact, or I've made an impact on. Let's go that route. I've made an impact on one of my daughter's friends, and I won't mention her by name, but she got into ISU, and coming from she's very, very intelligent girl, but social situations are sometimes a little rough, and now she's going to go to this big old college and by herself, right? You walk into a different world, and she's facing that head on. I'm so very proud of her. And she got into ISU. She got a couple grants. She's got a scholarship. She's making all kinds of good things happen. And we were on Facebook, and I said, I said, you're doing great things. And her comment below that was, I say that every morning. That's every morning of my life. I say that. And it all stems from, I did a part in a sermon when Patty was here, about desperation and stuff like that. And do great things is I explained my do great things, and that's what she took away from that. And it's just amazing. Just that little bit made a difference in her life, where she could face the things that are coming at her. And it's just that one little phrase.
That's right. Yeah.
So I'm super proud of her, and I'm glad that she's doing what she's doing. So just know that when you look in the mirror, what's your impact, and how can you make a difference in someone else's life? When you reach into your soul and you do something, does it feel right? Does it feel good? Because if it does, you're impacting somebody's life. So just know that when you're doing something, you can make a difference one great deed at a time. All right. Some cool things going on here at Pekin First. We got a canned food drive going right now. Talk about making an impact. Canned food drive going on right now, and it's the 4th through the 25th, and all donations are going to go to the domestic violence shelter, the Carroll House of Hope. This is a new ministry we've kind of developed or supported, a new thing we've started supporting. We got some passionate people here at the church that are very, very passionate about it. They're also, to support that ministry, they have an art show coming up May 30th, and it's from 5:30 to 8, and there's some special guests. You need to register. You can register right on our webpage. It's also on Facebook. I posted on Facebook today. So it is on Facebook. There's a link right there that you can register. Please register by May 23rd if at all possible, because all the supplies are donated or are provided. Sorry. And then we also have a combined service coming up.
We do. This weekend, we've got Mother's Day this weekend.
Yeah.
So let's have a good showing of moms out
Absolutely.
there. But we're also going to continue in the Love for Everyone campaign sermon series, and we're going to culminate that next weekend, May 18th, one service at 10 a.m. on Sunday, May the 18th. We're going to ask all of our folks who attend normally at 5 or normally at 8 to all come together at 10. And if you are thinking about joining us, maybe you haven't come yet, the next weekend will just be a little different in terms of our worship schedule, because we do want to have the whole church together and fill the sanctuary up and celebrate. We're going to have our contemporary praise team play some music, our traditional choir sing. We're going to have some special guests and some special videos and highlight what we have done over the last 2 years through this capital campaign called Love for Everyone, and it's going to be a great celebration. Then after that, we're going to have a catered meal that's provided by the building committee here, so no need to bring any food. Just come and enjoy a meal together in fellowship on May 18th.
Awesome. And if you're watching online or watching on YouTube, everybody's watching online, right? But if you're watching on YouTube, you notice we got a little different background behind us right now. So all the equipment for the recording room, we were kind of using a temporary setup, if you will. It was getting the job done, but right now the audio and visual team, the praise team is all in putting all the equipment in, like as we speak. They're doing it, and they're putting all.
These guys are new too.
That's right, the new mics. So if you like the way we sound, make a comment below. But they're putting all the audio equipment and stuff in, so we had to change locations because the room's a little bit of a mess and it's a little bit noisy in there. So we have the 18th combined worship. Like Sean said, if you are maybe looking for a church or looking for a weekend to attend here at Pekin First, this is the weekend to sample it all. It's the 18th, because it will all be in one service. So that's a great way to just sample everything that the church has to offer as far as worship goes.
Yeah, it's like one of those greatest hits CDs.
That's right.
If you don't know what songs you want to listen to, just get the greatest hits and listen to that. But if you want to get a taste for everything that Pekin First has to offer in worship, May the 18th at 10 a.m. would be our greatest hit.
You're going to have to work that into the sermon.
I think somehow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, all right. And then, of course, like you said, this weekend is Mother's Day. I've had a lot going on this week, so Mother's Day has not has kind of slipped my mind, so I need to get that into my head. Mother's Day this weekend. We love you, mothers. We thank you for all we do, so we hope you have a fantastic weekend this weekend. And I think we got all kinds of stuff going on. Visit our webpage at pekinfirst.org, and right there on the front page, we've put a calendar of everything going on this month. There is just so much going on this month. So be sure to visit us there. Losing my tongue. And I think that's all we got for this week.
I think that's it.
All right. So remember, God put us here to do great things. So let's go do great things.